Hi, Linda. We're back again. They can't get rid of us. We keep showing up.
We keep showing up. I was just telling them how much he charges to show up on all these people's.
Yeah.
He needs to start wearing red lipstick. But
Yeah,
actually, you're doing wonderful shows with everyone.
it's
It,
fun. It's fun.
each one I
Yeah.
watch because they're engaging. I just got done. I'm almost done with Kim,
Yeah, that was good.
and she's always a great fun to work with. And weren't you on Debbie's too, Freebird?
No, I don't think so.
You need
That,
to be on her show. Yeah.
yeah, well, that would be fun. Yeah, yeah, it's just good to have exchange opinions and get a different sense of things. But it's the last few have been really good. I've enjoyed.
So just an update. Today's my last day before I show up tomorrow. I must have got 15 reminders that I'm having surgery. Like I'd forget,
Mm,
And I have to report to the hospital at 10:15 a.m., which means I probably won't have surgery till 12 noon, which means and it's a 6-hour surgery. So you guys probably won't know until later that night. Sterling said he saw me spending the night. And I'd rather not spend the night only because, I just don't like being in the hospitals and I worked in them for 20 years. But if I have to stay, I'm not going to throw a fit, but
And you said what time is the start again?
probably about 12 noon tomorrow.
6 hours. Wow, that's a lot.
That's what he said. He said 6 hours.
Huh. Well, it's
That's why I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I wanted this done before I turned 70 and they had me on a waiting list. And of course I'm 70 now, although I'm just 70. And also that it's a 6-hour surgery.
yeah, it's curious that because you're a Virgo, and it's in a health house, and the moon tomorrow is in Pisces on the other side, which it's very symbolic of, it's like it's in the health area. It fits the symbolism of a repair, surgery, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not death or anything, right?
No, 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 no. But it helps. I mean, I always say this to people that what always supersedes everything is create the vision in your mind of it going well. I noticed that it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I got to visualize myself getting out of
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I remember when I really learned that lesson in the most intense way many years ago, doing a tooth extraction, the wisdom teeth, and that's a pretty big thing, they're yanking away. And I could hear, they gave me the gas, and I was kind of spacing out into the ether, and I could hear the dentist cursing because it wasn't going the way he thought it should go, and he said, "Oh, this effing thing, I can't believe it." So I thought, okay, I gotta calm this guy down, and I put my mind on his mind, and I, started to visualize and just tune in, and then I started to hear, "Oh, okay, it's going better, okay, no problem," and I realized that, the thing you don't do there is start to panic or feel like, okay, this could go the wrong way. And
Right.
it can seem, to some people, that can seem like wishful thinking, but it's actually really powerful to have
It does work. It's just surprising because I'm the type that goes in. I got hit by a car when I was 8 years old and had major surgeries. And I've never gotten frightened, but this time and it must be because of my age, because that's the only thing that's changed.
Well, even then, all you can do is really go into it as relaxed as possible.
Give it to the realm. I've got so many
Yeah.
angels. You should see all the stuff. Hey, listen, and Kevin Lewis wrote me and he said, I just want you to know we're going to be praying for us. And thank you. I said, I'm worried about all my menses.
Oh, your what?
All my menses.
Your menses?
He said, they'll be okay. Yeah, but if something happens to me, what would happen to all my menses?
Yeah, my God. Nah, you'll be fine.
I'll be cutting one-liners on my way in there.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Just don't
And I
spoil it.
also got a box of chocolate I'm bringing.
Mm,
As they always say, bring chocolate. You'll have them eaten out of your hand.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll be good. You just have to be relaxed into it, and
Yeah.
then what's the anticipated rest period after that?
Well, I thought I wasn't going to be able to drive for 4 weeks. And he said, no, within the week, if you're feeling, that's great, because I have a post-op. But he also said, it will just be lifting above my head. That, several weeks with that. No lifting things heavy, so.
Right,
The usual stuff.
The usual stuff, right.
So,
Yeah.
all right, my friend. I did get some questions, but who do you want to start off with? Do you want to start off with Trump and this?
Yeah, well, Trump, I mean, look, the Trump thing, it's just a continuing downtrend. There's pressure from every direction. And he does have still, as we all know, he's still the leader of the group as far as the nomination. I don't know. I mean, there are times when I think, okay, well, so he's gonna be running as almost certainly as a convicted felon, plus all kinds of other things, crashing and burning in business, abusing women, everything, under the sky. But then sometimes I think, I don't know, I'm not sure that this guy even gets that far, because it's so much pressure, and whether it's his health or something happens, I don't know. I'm just not yet totally. It's hard to buy that he actually would be the person.
When I started years ago, when I said he would, he said he was throwing his hat in, and we knew why he threw his hat in. I always saw him not making it to the full Monte, so to speak. And then as it got bigger and his numbers were so high, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. But in a way, I was hoping he would run, because I know for sure Biden will win.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. But in the meantime, it makes everybody nervous, because having to listen to this, I mean, what's the word? Sleazebag? What do we call this guy? It's brutal. He's calling for the execution of, decorated generals. I mean, isn't it funny that he says he should be executed for treason? No, you should be executed for treason. If this, he said, on the olden times they would have executed him. No, they would have executed you.
Yeah,
You were trying to.
top secret.
Yeah, I mean, well, and trying to overthrow the government. There's no crime worse than that. So come on, I mean, give me a break. It's incredible.
I know. Well, we all know logically, but he's the clown show. People love a good clown show. People like the fact that he causes chaos.
Well, yeah, and then you've got the MAGA group, and then you've got the Republicans that they just want to get their taxes cut, and they want to be in that world. So that's the group that, for example, is pouring money into this no labels thing. It turns out I wasn't totally aware of the mechanics, but apparently it's just this thing being funded by Republican donors. They want to run a party that appears to be reasonable, because they could go in there and present the same message as Biden with a few tweaks, pretend they're doing something. They know they're not going to win. All they have to do is grab 2 or 3%, and they cause a major problem. So Democrats have to be aware. A vote for those guys is a vote for Trump, or a vote for whoever's running Republican at that.
Yeah.
It's really critical.
Don't
fall for it. Every time that Republican or Democrats over the years, we're in this mess because of Democratic foolishness. Back in 2000, they voted for Ralph Nader. In 2016, Jill Stein, and many of them don't vote. This kind of behavior is what causes people like Trump and the like to ascend into power. And the consequences are lethal. This whole court has been formed since 2000, right? And we could have avoided it if we had just stayed disciplined and realized there are 2 items on the menu. There are not 3 there are 2. Choose one or the other. You definitely don't want Republicans. So then vote Democratic. It's simple. Don't start getting into your mind, Remember this woman in 2004, I said to her, you got to vote for Kerry. She said, no, I'm voting for the Green Party because I have to vote on principle. So I said to her, you're throwing your vote away. That vote. Now, of course, Washington State, she can throw her vote away because it didn't matter. But if you do that in Ohio, Florida, places like that, you're contributing to the problem. You got to think straight. Even if you say, Democrats, I don't like them. Okay, but they're the least bad option. Like this was one of the things that Kissinger, I'll give him credit for this. He said, politics is always a choice between 2 evils. Always, right? So choose the lesser evil. Simple, right?
The good news is Trump is, the way he's blabbing, he's going to do this and he's going to do that and stop this and arrest these people, execute these people. that's gotta scare some of the logical people, like, oh boy, we don't need him in there and tearing everything apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he tries. I mean, look at what he's done. He knows very well that he's a corrupt criminal. That's why he started calling Biden, the Biden crime family. But I would make ads, laughing and saying, this is a joke. Say, Biden crime family, where's the evidence? You never produce any evidence. But we got evidence. You're in court. You're being prosecuted. That's what's really happening. Let's not pretend anymore. That's what it really is. Biden crime family. What a joke. Where's the evidence? Present it, right? I would run these ads, carpet bomb, next year to
Yeah.
those voters. I mean, I'm amazed that people say there are voters that are unsure. You really have to be living under a rock to not see what's going on, how clear it is.
And then a lot of the voters are ones that depend on Social Security and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
he'll
yeah.
take that away. Did you see the budget deal they're trying to bring up? Where are they cutting the poorest, women and children?
I know, it's remarkable.
Millions of dollars, no more free lunches, no more this, no more medical help. But boy, you better not get rid of that baby.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, whenever the Republicans say, well, you shouldn't just give people things. Well, when you get a big tax cut, they're giving you things. I mean, how do you think this works? You're getting money. You're being given things. So you getting a big tax cut, so you have, whatever, 100 grand more in the bank, that's allowed. But if you take away a poor person's lunch, that's not allowed. Oh, I love how your giving works, It's very, very rich.
Especially our children, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
it's
You
horrible.
I spoke to a cousin, my deceased cousin Pamela's daughter, the other day. She's working 3 jobs just to survive.
Yeah, yeah. No, and this is the thing that we're in that era, the superseding argument in the astrology. It's a little unfortunate, the echoes of the Civil War. And in the Civil War, what was the argument about? It was about slavery. They want to enslave people. They're still trying to do that. This idea that we're going to tell you what to do, you'll do what we want, and then you enrich us and you can stay below. That's slavery, right? That's the
Right.
logic. And they're still trying to do it. And we have to fight back and disagree. It's that simple, And the fighting back is through voting, And I know we've said this many times, but people just take that for granted. Oh, maybe somebody else will do it. No, everybody has to show up, to.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of voting, one of my ex-husbands likes to talk trash about it. He never votes, but he'll talk trash about all the politicians. It's like, when you vote, give me your opinion, but otherwise I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I know, because, yeah, it makes no sense. I know.
But astrologically, did you see financial ruin for him because they're stopping his permits? He's going to fight this, but I don't see a reprieve. I see Trump organization going down.
Oh, yeah, no, it's there. The thing is that in the astrology, if you think about it, because people will say, look how astrology is too complicated, too many things. There are actually not enough things in the sense that so many things in astrology control more than one thing, right? So, for instance, the house of death is also the house of insurance and taxes. It may seem crazy when you think that way, but it's the truth. And that's where energy is circulating. And so it's coming after his finances. Yes, absolutely. I've said in the past that I am pretty sure that at some point Smith is going to charge him with financial fraud because of the way Smith's chart connects to his. All these planets in Trump's money house. It's not hard. Any lawyer that looks into this guy's life, it's like you start out with the premise. Okay, where's the crime? Because I'm going to find it. Just start looking around. He doesn't do anything honestly. It's always, look what he does. My apartment is 30,000 square feet. That's why the judge said, you can make an honest mistake. And instead of 10,000, you could say 12,000. No, you say 30,000. So that's why he said, you're living in La La Land. This is like a fantasy world. And then you take money from the banks, unfairly. Then you defraud the insurance companies. You're basically, defrauding the entire system, right? And so, yeah, no, for sure, I agree with you. Yes, that money. It's one of the things that is very likely to happen. That as we go into the next months to years, especially, losing his sources of money and having his money taken away, right? Because they're now going to shut it down in New York. How long is it before they find other crimes somewhere else?
Oh, I know. And he's going to owe all kinds of money to people, including attorneys.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes more and more dicey. So that's one of the things, but it's not the only thing. The other thing we know is in court for actual crimes like espionage and and trying to overturn the government, and you name it.
And it's always, I just saw his True Social text. Somebody posted it, and I couldn't even read through it, but it's always a big conspiracy. These judges are left wing and everybody's out to get them. And
Sure.
him and Eric are both incensed that this judge said Mar-a-Lago was only worth 18 million when it's the most prime real estate in Florida.
Yeah, but it's only worth what you could sell it for. I mean, if you believe that it's worth $1 billion, put it on the market for $1 billion so we can all have a good laugh. As people go like, yeah, sure. So we're going to buy that. I mean, please. What a joke. Because, this is very, it's got echoes of Hitler. I've seen Hitler documentaries, and Hitler's idea of the truth was whatever he thought. He basically said, the truth is what I feel. No, the truth is what it is. You can't just say, okay, it's worth $2 billion because I think it's worth $2 billion.
Right.
No, it's worth whatever the market pays. It's ridiculous. This
Well,
guy-
that judge said he was in La La Land.
Yeah, exactly. But now it has consequences because they've taken away his certificates. So at least in New York, he's probably going to be
Oh, and
dissolved.
the IRS, TikTok, the IRS is going to come down on him like flies to what.
Yeah, no, right. When they smell the possibility of collecting money. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why I kept seeing Mar-a-Lago almost like foreclosed or that somebody's taken over it. That's what I felt.
Yeah, it's not this is I've sensed this about Trump since 2016, 2017. The feeling I kept getting is this guy has just walked himself into a total trap. He thinks he's won something, but because he's such a crook and now he's up on a perch, they're going to come after him. It may take a while. It always does. It always does. I see the craziest criminal stuff and they'll say, oh, this person, we have the DNA, we have everything. And then they say, oh, then they went to court 18 months later. What took you 18 months? You had all the evidence. Because the law is like that. And by the way, he's going to appeal all this. This will go, for quite a while. But, the way he thinks, I don't know if you heard Cassidy, an excerpt from Cassidy's book, where she overheard Trump talking with Meadows, saying, the Supreme Court didn't give us what we want. And he's blaming Meadows for not making enough phone calls. And I'm thinking, seriously, do you really think that, who are you going to call? So the Supreme Court is going to make a judgment and you didn't make enough calls. That's the way he thinks.
Yeah.
So he's always trying to make things work according to the way his crazy vision is, even if it means, the powers that be are not going to agree. And the Supreme Court, they're a branch of government. They don't want to be, taken down. They want to.
Oh, yeah. And they
afloat.
turned their back to him with everything where he said this election was rigged.
Exactly. So even if we say, well, there's a large sector of the population, I heard someone say something that was completely wrong. It sounded awful, but the person said, well, 70% of the country agrees, 70% think that he didn't do anything. 70% of Republicans think that, but 70% of Republicans is a much smaller piece of the country, right? So this is still majority against minority. Stay with the majority. That's my counsel. Stay there and enforce it, and then wait it out. And yeah, you got to put on your seatbelt. It's going to be intense. I get it.
Right. 76% actually of Americans don't want the government to shut down.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah, that's another thing, right? That it's like someone was saying back in 2018 when he was president, they were still in charge of the House, so they shut themselves down.
Oh, and he said, this is my responsibility. I'm shutting her down. Mm-hmm.
But for what reason? What is what are you doing exactly? Where's the logic of this? That's why most intelligent people say this plays against you, and they're doing it again. They're now going to shut the government down. Democrats are not going to give in. I think it was Schumer or someone said, we're not going to give in to the ransom. Like this is like someone being kidnapped and give us money. We're not going to do anything. So as time passes, they'll have to open the government, right? And then the end result is you can then make ads saying these people don't know how to govern because they don't.
Right.
By the way, what they're doing, no matter what they pass, it has to go through the Senate. So how is this even going to work? If you know that you pass a budget, asking for a trip to Mars, they're not going to approve that, right? So then you're wasting people's time. It's all gesturing. This is where they reveal how selfish they are because They're doing it so they can get money from their constituents. That's all they're doing it for. They make a lot of noise, and then
Exactly.
a lot of these guys give them money, but that's not for the country. That's for you, you know. So this
Right,
is where
right.
I'm waiting out people like Lauren Boebert. I looked at her chart. I don't think she doesn't
Oh,
know.
I felt that awful feeling, and I know you guys would say, don't feel sorry for her, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah, no, I checked it, and her odds when she goes into the 24 election are extremely low. So
Yeah.
she's
But Menendez, did you take a look see at him?
yeah, Menendez. He's another one of the many examples that I don't know the birth time. I know the birthday. So based on the birthday, you can see most of why it's going on now, why the pressure is there. If he's born from midday onward, then the odds are better that he is forced out in the next month or two at most. He's forced out, or maybe even sooner, because there's pressure there from Saturn. So out he goes. If he's born quite a bit earlier, it's a little more difficult to push him out. But you see with him, by the way, here I'll admit, I'm looking at what has been presented. What are the odds that the feds make a case and they say, well, okay, we found $500,000 in bills at your house, plus we found gold bars, and we found all your texts talking to Egyptians, I mean, please, this is going to be a really difficult case to overcome, right? So then you see that he's got the planets whereby in 2025, it's likely when he would end up maybe even doing prison time, because then the Saturn-Neptune change and they pile into all his planets. This is a little bit like when we were looking at Giuliani back in 2020, and you could see the storm coming, and someone could have warned them, hey, this may not work out for you. By the way, this applies to all these people who were in the White House. Did anyone say to them, well, actually some did. Ironically, remember it was Hirschman who was saying to Eastman, get a good lawyer because you're going to need one. He knew.
Yeah.
I mean, give it time. They're going to come after you, right?
They're going to come after you.
Yeah, it's just like that. So
I just heard a Democrat on the news in the Congress Hall say that Menendez single-handedly stopped their bill. It was a bipartisan bill, and he was the one that held out to make these foreign people say who they are and what they're investing in.
Yeah, it's
in 2020. In 2020.
In 2020, yeah, and it's very Trumpy behavior. This guy's obviously been a crook for quite some time. He was in court, but he got off, and that's Trump's favorite maneuver. When he beats something, he thinks, oh well, this is great. I mean, I can just do it again. So he kept going, but people are watching, and they started. I mean, you tell me how it is, because apparently I didn't know this. They went into his house last year, I think. So he's been.
What?
I think that's when they
found all the gold bars and the cash.
Yeah, so it must be that they found all that. I believe I'm correct about this. That is over a year. But then you see there again, right? What takes them so long? They're building the case. You want to make sure when you go into court, there are no.
Apparently, they had a lot of texts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And John Fetterman said, for emergencies, my family has an extra flashlight.
I love it. I love it when you say, well, they're prosecuting me because I keep a lot of money because I'm Cuban, or because I'm worried.
Oh, he tried to use the Latin thing, and people.
Yeah, the Latin. Yeah, because I'm a Latino. No, it's not because you're Latino. It's because you're a crook. And
yeah.
I'm a support the Democratic Party, but this to me is, for example, much, much, much worse than what Al Franken did. This is.
Oh my God! I was so mad about Al Franken.
You can't have people in Congress representing, the government and doing deals through the back door, so your wife can get a Mercedes and so you can get gold bars. This is not cool. I'm sorry. No, I don't care whether you're Democratic or Republican. No, but amazingly, are you noticing that the Republicans, because of Trump, now they're saying, oh no, the judge shouldn't have done that. Not about Menendez, but about who was it that they were saying this about? Or no, maybe it was the idea.
Yeah, they were saying Menendez should stay.
Yeah, no, because
right to his day in court.
Right. Because what they're saying is the jury should decide. Right. That's what Marco Rubio, that corrupt, Republican from Florida, I would say, okay, well then, why are you guys arguing with the? Why are you saying that the jury in D.C. isn't going to be fair? Then that's a jury, right? The jury for Trump in D.C. By the way, that's where he committed the crime. So where you commit the crime is where you then jury of your peers assesses you. If you don't want to be convicted in D.C., don't commit crimes in D.C. It's so
Exactly.
hypocritical. I mean, no end to this garbage. None.
So, I want to ask you about, I'm listening to her book. I got it on audio. I just went, Cassidy. And she
Cassidy.
actually said in the book, she was born December 12th.
Yeah,
19
that's one that, people are often so anxious to know what someone's thing might be, and I'll look around and try to come up with a time. I can't even remember. I know I did a pretty long look, and I had a March date that was somewhere that looked reasonable, and I did a thing on that, and it's not March. I mean, it's December. That's miles away.
December 12th.
Right, but as often happens with Trump, it's funny. I'll find the chart that is wrong, and then when I get the real chart, it's worse than the one that I found. Like this one is worse because for him, because it shows how clearly, she's like a bomb waiting to blow, in that she was really following him for a long time.
Well, she loved him.
She loved him, and you see the connection in the chart. Like for example, she's a Sagittarius with the sun next to Trump's moon. That's an immediate connection. And then there are several polarities where planets are opposite planets, which often form relationships by being on the other side of each other. But those oppositions, if things go wrong, can become, I'm going to push against you, which is what she started to do, right? And so, and you also see from her apparent birth time, early morning hours and all this, that it matches why she was in the committee a year ago, testifying against him. So, yeah, I think she'll be fine, by the way. I think she's going to be totally fine, and probably has an extended career starting in the middle of the decade, because she's not even at her Saturn return yet. She's 20-something. Her Saturn return is in 2025. So she's late 20s.
Does she look good, or does she have a place in this world?
Oh, no, totally. It has a
Okay,
place. Like, what do you mean? A place as in?
Like, what do you see for her future?
She's going to be totally fine. Totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a Sag, but you had mentioned Capricorn, and she feels more Capricorn to me.
Yeah, she's a Sag with multiple planets in Capricorn. One of the ways you know is that her story is that they hired her because she's very adept at organizing and keeping track of things. That's Capricorn. Sagittarius is the big picture. They're not particularly interested in administering, organizing, and the place where her son would be, if I'm right about this, and I'm pretty sure she's Capricorn rising, then it's a service-oriented person who, at least at first, is more behind the scenes. They always have this service-oriented personality. But Capricorn, is organized, and Capricorn is reality-based, and I'm sure she noticed, well, wait a second, in fact, she says that. She was on TV saying, I was really loyal, but I started to see these men, basically breaking every law. In the book, she heard Trump, talking about hanging Mike Pence. I mean, how far do you have to go? And
yeah, I'm right now. I'm at COVID, but I'm looking forward to seeing what she witnessed during the January 6th. And
and she said that there's that other woman who's a colleague with her, because they were saying to her, "Oh, you're so brave," and she said, "Well, I wasn't as brave as this other woman who, right away, January 6th, she rebuked Trump." She was one of the Sarah somebody. She came out, remember, very strongly, because she just couldn't believe that they were doing what they were doing. It took Cassidy longer, because remember, Cassidy had a lawyer, Trump's lawyer, and only when she realized, okay, I got to tell the truth. So it was really months before.
And then she came to her dad with a subpoena, and he threw it in the garbage. She said, don't even show up. You don't have to show up. And the only lawyer you get is Trump's lawyers.
Yeah.
And he drank the Kool-Aid.
I know, isn't it amazing? I mean, that makes things so hard when your own family, your own father, I mean.
I know. And then he said, I raised you to such and such. And that's when she said, you barely had any part of raising me.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, if you raise me to be a crook, well, what kind of raising is that?
Yeah,
you're raising me to follow crooks.
She seems like a really good person.
Yeah.
I have to tell the truth. I already said this to everybody, but I fast forwarded because I wasn't interested in her childhood. The very first chapter was she was born December, and that's when I contacted you in the early morning hours, she said.
Yeah.
But then I went straight, I wanted the meat, the juicy. Then I'll go back and read about her childhood.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a great story, and yeah, she's
And then when she was on Rachel Maddow, Meadows made a really snarled remark about her and that she's lying and all this. She said, well, that's interesting. Why don't you go under oath
sure. Yeah.
and give your side of the story and tell them what I'm lying about? Why don't you go, get sworn in a deposition, and then I'll listen to what you think I'm lying on. And he'd never do that because he's a liar.
He's a liar. No, and I mean the thing is, this is the thing that picture the Trump trial. There are all these people. She's one of them who, you can call it hearsay, but she says that she was present, walking in the Rose Garden with Meadows and Trump talking, and Trump says to Meadows, this is too embarrassing. We can't admit
Yes.
that I lost to Biden. And then he says to Meadows, figure it out. Like, what is Meadows going to do? He's going to make phone calls. That's Trump's idea. I'm going to start phoning around. And honestly, you lost the election. And not the only one person that has done this. So you can bring these people to testify so that he knew, but he was trying to overthrow the government. They were looking at it as, like a quest they were going to follow, which is completely.
And she said she didn't let them know, any of us know, if she was actually going to have to speak at any of these trials. But she said, if they ask me to do it, I will be there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so.
She didn't say if she got to meet Jack Smith and what he was wearing and how did he look.
No, actually,
What was
that's
he
the other,
like?
that's the other thing, though. If she's Capricorn rising, she has multiple planets in Capricorn. Even if she's not Capricorn rising, she still has a lot of Capricorn planets, including that a Sagittarius with Jupiter in Capricorn becomes more Capricorn. And she has a pretty serious and controlled demeanor.
She looks like she's very serious.
So she smiles a bit, but you notice that a lot of her demeanor is very serious and very controlled, which is a Capricorn type of energy. So yeah.
Yeah, my sister's a Capricorn, but she's not as like this lady is, who's a Sag. My sister takes on more of the Sag. I think she has a Sag rising. My sister's more, and I still have some Sag friends, and they're very giving and loving and outgoing. They love animals, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's more, Sagittarius is more unfiltered. The joke is they'll say something that is true, but is not better have been left unsaid, where Capricorn will kind of go, well, that's true, but if I say it, then, I'll make an enemy or.
They think about it, yeah.
Yeah, they stop and they kind of go, nah, that's not politically, pull back. Where the Sag will go, oh, look at that,
Yeah,
something that
Sag-
everybody comes back to.
I often, from years ago when I was young and I had a girlfriend that followed astrology, she said, Sag is foot and mouth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So.
So, was there something else? So do you think we're closing?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I can take, well, remember we talked last time?
Yeah.
They talk about making deals, but it doesn't feel like, I don't know, what does it feel like to you? To me, it feels like, yeah, that they won't be able to.
I feel like they'll be at a stalemate. There might be some emergency thing come in, but I'm not feeling a long time. I'm not feeling like the last one.
No.
Isn't that weird? I just kept having a feeling that September was the Writers Guild thing. I just felt that. And I feel the Screen Actors Guild is following right behind.
Yeah, and the thing is, in the astrology, the Pluto station in October, or fairly early October, that has the feel of the conflict, because Pluto that way can be pretty dark. And I notice when planets station, you get action, and the idea of being in a logjam, where it's closed and people are annoyed because it'll be 24-hour coverage. They'll just go, it's still closed, and what are we going to do? So. Very likely, I would be amazed if we avoided it. And a lot of it is because he's not able to govern, he's too scared to, do the thing he should do would be to say, okay, well, here, because there are 5 of these guys, right? 5, isn't it? 5 or 6? That
4,
are not,
I heard.
right. I would just go and say, well, if you guys don't vote, I'm just going to get the Democrats to vote along with us.
But
And
the Democrats said they would be happy to help if he stops the Biden thing,
oh, I see. Which yeah,
and he
exactly.
won't do that. No.
It's, I know. It's called this thing about you're painting the floor of a room and you paint yourself in the corner so you can't step out. That's McCarthy's situation. That's what he's stuck in.
Have you noticed we haven't heard anything from Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah, well, the thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene is that she is in the first week of Gemini, so Saturn is really on that in those degrees, and it's difficult to navigate properly. Even a really good person would have to be cautious, careful, which she's not, but I think she's being forced to. She's not in a good place. Neither is Matt Gaetz, right? Matt Gaetz, because he's not the same reason, but he has a planet in that area. So Matt Gaetz, McCarthy, and MTG, from here to about February, it's not good. It's not good because people like this, they don't do well with Saturn. They have no sense of boundaries and self-discipline. They're always breaking through that. So then when the planet visits, things don't work well. So in a way, she's doing herself a favor, by the way, because the way she is, if she were talking more, she would probably be making things worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard I got something here from Pat Lee. I heard different readers say 9/26. Well, what's today? It's the 27th.
Well, we missed it. What happened?
There were 4 YODS.
The which?
YODS.
YOD. Oh, yods. YODS.
They were causing normally happy, cheerful people to be cranky and upset.
Okay, let me see. 4 yods? Really?
Yeah.
That's how, the thing is, if there are 4 yods, if there are yods, they would still be there today. Where are these yods? I'm just looking at the chart. Yeah, I can kind of see. Yeah, I can see what she's talking about. But I guess it's just that what happened yesterday that, is it that much different than any other?
Well, that judge told Trump, you're a chump, and we're
Yeah,
taking
well,
away all your money.
Well, that's because Trump's chart, even without the yods, the yods are part of it, right? He's getting a lot of pressure, but not because they're yods, just because of where it lines up in his chart.
Right.
It's what makes it more important.
Our Pa says, how is the North Node moving into Aries going to impact our sense of collective identity relative to our individualism, especially with Pluto moving into Aquarius as the next presidential election approaches? I'm worried we're going to move towards me when we need to work more towards building communities of support.
Well, see, the Pluto moving into Aquarius is Pluto moving into the sign of community. So that's actually will take care of it all by itself, right? And I think it's why you're seeing now the country approving unions at such a high level, right? Because the unions became less and less popular over the years, and now there's a lot of support. So that's the Pluto.
Oh, I know, yes.
For sure. And that, as far as the nodes, the nodes, the way I see the nodes is that they cut across a certain part of your chart. Astrologers mostly notice that tracking them for transits is not reliable. It's not an easy thing because sometimes what I've noticed with the nodes is there are times when I'll go, oh, wow, look at that. It's amazingly, and other times nothing, zilch. So I just stay out of there because there are enough other points to correlate, right? But here's the thing. The node in Aries right now for the US, it's going to be in Aries all through next year too. And the Aries in the US chart is the election house. So, it's pretty obvious, right, that we're going to all be like this. But this Aries node is not favorable to Trump because Aries is Trump's legal house. And that's why he's up to his eyeballs. It's one of the many things in his chart that is coming after him. But I don't know that I would mix nodes with the community and so forth. I think the Pluto in Aquarius is going to be beneficial. The Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 to 2025, 26 is the key reason why fascism became fashionable in the world. That's the key reason.
From 2008
to 2026. And if you think about it, the high point is right in the middle, which is when Trump, Bolsonaro, Brexit, all these crazy things were happening. And then it starts to go the other way and it starts to diminish. And then Pluto leaves Capricorn, which is actually remarkably similar to last time, like in the 30s and 40s, Pluto had to get out of Cancer, before the situation went the other way. And the Second World War led to a major flourishing of democratic energy for the most part. I mean, Russia was communist and all that, but Europe, North America, it really grew, over the next many years, that whole alliance.
Right, right.
Yeah. Even Israel was formed in 1948, and Israel is a major force, and they're democratic. I mean, they're trying to be. They're having problems still, but that's another thing that what Bibi's trying to do is likely to fail the more we go into the middle of the decade, because he's trying to centralize the power too much. When you're centralizing in one person, that's Plutonian type of energy, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's also, by the way, very male. The Pluto thing of male dominance, they're like the same, hand in glove. But the problem for the alpha males is that this other planet got discovered in 2005, so women are gaining more power. And they're trying to stop it. You can't stop that. It's going to continue to grow, which is why I would be totally amazed if, I'm going to say 2 more years at most, this thing with Roe v. Wade is going to get fixed. I think, it's going to get fixed.
Yes, I asked you, did you take a look, see it because when Roe v. Wade got reversed by Supreme Court or whatever they did, they handed it back to the states. I felt that energy of they have awoken the sleeping giant.
Yeah, no, the period we're in, this is that the planet that in a sense displaced Pluto. It's really ironic that they named it after a woman, warrioress, and so the rise of women, and it's really in there for like the rest of the decade and into the next decade. The same planet that, by the way, coincidentally, is coming after Trump for a decade, right? What are you seeing?
Yeah.
Prosecutors, judges, lots of women. I mean, when you think about it, if it's not Judge Chutkan, it's Liz Cheney, it's Cassidy Hutchinson, it's Letitia James, it's Fani Willis. These are women of power. They have
Great
power.
women of power.
Yeah,
and
they have power.
Trump hates that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to use your imagination. Imagine you're in a movie back to the Civil War or before that. They would have been amazed if they looked into the future and they saw all these women coming in. They wouldn't believe it. They said, this is nuts. What happened to the country? That's the truth. Women back then were having zero influence. It was all the men arguing among themselves, right? Now the men are running into a problem, and they need to run into a problem because they're crooks. I mean, I have no problem with men that are honest, but this is ridiculous, This idea of, it's all graft and grifting and lying and abuse, misogyny, this thing that Cassidy talks about, with Giuliani, that total pig. I mean, do you really need to
And
do that?
of course they call her a liar, but why would you lie about something as gross as that?
Yeah.
That's
why
no
would you?
plus in her pocket. It was like she experienced this ugly, gross thing.
Yeah, and when she was asked about it, she said, I'm not going to dignify his answer. I'm not going to give it any oxygen. All I will say to you is I stand by what I'm saying, and I stand by what I said to the committee. That's good. End of story.
And Eastman witnessed it.
Yeah, he was mirroring. Yeah, looking at it. I know. I mean, and this is the thing. Guy like Giuliani, problem he has is that, once you have that Borat tape and you see what he was doing there, people then go, well, oh yeah, I think he's probably likely to be that way, because in your mind you're not going to go, oh, that's the guy that was walking in New York City back in 9/11 looking all mayoral, right? No, that's the other guy over at the Borat thing. You know what? When Borat said, oh, don't take my daughter, take me.
Oh. Oh my God, that was hysterical.
It's hilarious.
It's such a shame he turned out to be such a laughingstock, but some good documentaries have said he was always kind of a sleaze.
Oh yeah, no, you can go back. The problem a lot of these people have, it's why the modern era, in a way, is really tough on fascists, because if you think about, go back 100 years, 200 years, it was all czars, kings, and there was no communication. You couldn't get the message out, so you could make up stories. Now it's a big problem because people can go back, I saw this thing where they showed Giuliani doing a lot of race baiting in the 90s when he got elected to be mayor. Then it was because he was turning people against each other, and he was doing the same thing that he did later. And by the way, did you know that he was one of the lawyers defending the Sacklers? I mean, these people
No.
hang together. He was on their team. You know, the Sacklers were essentially, in a certain way, murderers. They were killing people for profit, right? Saying, take 40 milligrams of OxyContin. No, that's not enough. They were already having pills like hundreds of milligrams. A horse would be high as a kite if you gave a horse that much OxyContin, right? And this guy was defending them. So it's all of a piece. You know, they all hang together, and they are not good people. They're people
Yeah.
that operate in bad faith. That's what is really disturbing about this. That
Yeah, he
You-
goes to the highest bidder.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So Sparkle wants to know, what about Ivanka Trump? How's she staying out of all this New York business?
Well, yeah, that one is a bit of a mystery. It's another one that, and I don't know why. For example, I know the time for Trump, that's accurate. I know the Trump for Junior, that's accurate. But I don't think there's one for Eric or for Ivanka. But Ivanka, even without a time, my feeling is something is going to come up because she's not through with this. For now, it's in the background. But sometime next year, the year after, she's not free of the problem. So far, she seems to have figured out how to, like, think about this. She's not even in on the judgment. The judge said Trump, Don Jr., and Eric are the
Right.
business. She's not named. So somehow, which I guess must say that she's smarter than they are, you know, on some level,
Right.
because she's stayed clear. But the chart still has problems, you know. And it could be, by the way, it could be as simple as that if the chart has problems going into future years, then it could be that if her family is under a lot of stress, because then she would feel it that way, because she would be ostracized, you know. I mean, look, what this guy has done is he's completely destroyed the Trump name, you know. The
Yeah.
name that he was using to make all his money now becomes like a swear word.
So I also think something's going to happen with her husband too.
With who?
Her husband, Jared. I
Yeah,
think
that's possible.
something's coming up with him.
Yeah.
So GSW said, can Andre comment on the insane proliferation of Geminis in the Trumpsky administration? And then Jack Smith being another one. Just does my head in.
Well, see, this is the logic that astrology, you have to think of it as signs and planets and angles that they make to each other, but you cannot know unless you take a look and examine the situation. You can't really know how that person is channeling the vibe of those planets. So a planet is not just one thing, it has a range, and it can be really, really good and really, really bad. And you know, the best example to illustrate this is if you think of the last sign, Pisces. That is where the spirit is illuminated because it's the final sign in the journey. It's also where the prisons are, because if you've lived your life as a criminal, you go to the slammer. Which choice do you want? And then there's everything in between. Some people don't necessarily go to prison, but they build up a lot of bad karma. Maybe they get sick, they lose their way in different ways. And the opposite would be the better, you know, journey is become more and more spiritual, which is the idea of being connected to other people. Because a lot of the problem with these people, what it is that they don't think, or they don't seem to realize that we share our being with everyone else. You know, it's one being. So that's the golden rule, you know, in Christianity, where they tell you what you do to, you know, treat people the way you would want them to treat
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
They ignore that completely. So that's the in some level you would call that the criminal mind. You know, Trump would be at the top, or you know, Al Capone, you know, up there, and then you descend from there. So that's the logic of that. Yeah.
So Jen says, my date of birth is October 20th. I have Sun, Moon, Venus, and rising in Libra. Can you tell me in general terms the significance of this?
You know what the joke on Libra is
What?
is that if you want to annoy a Libra, you say to them a lot, "It's up to you," because they don't like making decisions. They'll say, "Which movie do you want to go to?" I don't know. It's up to you. You choose. They want you to choose.
Did you
So-
ever see that old movie, Marty?
Possibly doesn't ring a bell.
What was he was a real kind of not very good looking I want to say Eric, but it wasn't Eric. It was a show called Marty, and it was a bunch of guys standing around, and they said, "Hey, what do you want to do tonight, Marty?" "I don't know. What do you want to do?" "I don't know, Marty. Hey, what do you want to do?" And they were just hanging and doing nothing. Then he meets this real nice girl, sort of a plain Jane, and they go out and they have this wonderful time. And he was supposed to come get her. She's living at her parents' house. Ernie Bornstein or something like that. Anyway,
Ernest Borgnine. Is that the guy?
that's him. Yeah.
Wasn't he in the Poseidon Adventure?
Yes. Yeah.
I remember that.
So I think I know it was up for an Academy Award. He might have won for that. Anyway, so then one day the guys talked him out of her because you know how miserable people like other people to be miserable. "What are you doing with her? She's a plain Jane, what the hell?" So he didn't meet her, and he's with these guys and they're all talking. And then he realized, what the hell am I doing with you guys? I got a real nice lady. Sure, she's not the best looking, but she likes me. And of course, he's not that good looking either, and she's a wonderful person. And here she is probably sitting there, just heartbroken because I didn't show up. And I'm here with you putzes? No, I'm going up there. So he went up there and finally showed up. But the look on her face sitting there with her parents and the TV, you could see the light of the TV on her face, it was so beautiful. But anyway, I don't know why I brought that up.
So, well, on the Libra question though, because I left it as a bit of a joke, but if you have a lot of planets in Libra, it's like a life where you try to, first of all, it's very good for relating. Libra people are experts at, doing public relations, any kind of thing where they're talking with people. But the idea though is to cultivate, the archetype is balance and harmony, is look for ways in your body and mind to find that balance, the way you manage yourself, because then you'll be who you really are and your life will go well, right? And also you'll be able to start making decisions.
Well, and they're very good with making beautiful dinners with candlelight or decorating, very feminine. Libra men can be very romantic. They go out of their way to think. My son's a Libra, and he's like so dependable.
Yeah, no, and Libra, even though having said all that, because you think, okay, they don't make decisions, the rest of the chart comes into play too, and some of the most direct, even aggressive people in history have been Libras, like Margaret Thatcher. She had a Mars energy, so then the Iron Lady pops in, but she was not held back at all by that particular thing. So you see them in politics a lot as well. It's a common sign because it's Bill Clinton is Libra rising. So Libra rising gives you the ability, like, press the flesh, you're talking to everybody type thing. That's very Libran. And
It's very,
yeah, and the criticism can be that they don't really mean it. They're just doing it as a technique, to get you to like them. But
well, the best friend I ever had in my life that I didn't realize she was my best friend until she died was a Libra woman. And she always looked at both sides of the coin. You couldn't even complain to her about someone because she always knew the reason why they were the way they were. You know what I'm saying? She was like that. Kind of a saint if you ask.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Any sign, if you express the sign in a wholesome, harmonious way, any sign has a way of presenting something that is very good for the world. The problem is when it descends into, negativity, all the way to criminality. Then it's not as good, obviously, right?
Yeah, I think my son has a lot of Scorpio. He can be very stubborn.
Yeah, and that would be the fixity. The Libra is cardinal, so Libra in the end, even though I was saying about decision making, even for a Libra, the solution is take action, do something, start, because that's the cardinality. But Scorpio is fixed. So Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo, they don't particularly like changing. They'll kind of hang in there. And their ability is to concentrate and do things, but then changing is difficult, right? Because it's fixed.
Have you taken a look at Putin lately?
Not lately, but I have his chart memorized. And Putin is, we've said this before, he's playing this game where his only play is hoping that Trump or a similarly inclined Republican gets elected. But what makes me very suspicious about his plan is that in 25, where Saturn goes is not good. It's not good because he's got, speaking of Libra, he's a Libra, right? And you notice that in a way, he does the Libra really well because he's kind of a monster. I mean,
I know.
someone who just blows you out of the sky is a monster. But he appears in a certain way to be smooth and level. You don't really see him yelling. That's a very Libran thing. But he's got multiple planets in Libra. Saturn will be on the other side opposing. That is not a good situation for a person in his position because it means limitations and problems are coming. Extending into the
Well,
latter
he's
part of the
really
decade.
hoping Trump will win again.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. He's even making comments about how they're treating Trump unfairly. He's just like a Trump lackey at this
Oh,
point.
but don't you dare say anything about him. Don't you talk about his administration.
I
And
know.
if you're a Russian, you do that, like that poor reporter did. That used to be on MSNBC. He's up in no man's land in prison up there.
Yeah, no, I'm amazed that anybody in this day and age since 2016, what you would be doing in Russia is beyond me. Why you didn't get a plane ticket and get out of there immediately?
I know.
It's so risky.
Okay, so anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered. What was there? Was there something? No, I'm going to be doing some videos on Elon Musk and Russell Brand because I found times.
Oh,
They're really quite reflective of the situation, what they're in, and also what's coming up because you can kind of guess, based on a
I'll be
person's
looking
behavior.
forward to that.
Yeah,
I've never liked Russell Brand, whatever his name is.
no, well, I could tell back during the pandemic that he's just a blabbermouth. Because he has that British communication style, he has a certain appeal. Probably he's good at comedy, but I would listen to him and he was doing like the same thing as Tucker Carlson, asking questions, like, well, is it really the right thing to do to take the vaccine? Because, well, at the end you'd think you're just putting doubt in people's mind. This is going nowhere. And then he has these ideas about changing the system, completely because yes, there are a lot of problems, but when a person tells you, look, the banks are bad and this is bad and that is bad, then you ask, well, what's your plan? What do we do? Do you have a method here? Like, do you want to just light it all on fire to see where it all shakes out? That sounds like Trump to me.
Yeah.
Create chaos.
I saw that biography movie, Katy Perry, when she was on tour and she was married to him. He treated her so bad, even in the movie.
Yeah, it's amazing
He
that.
had tripped her, he had no support at all.
Yeah, and didn't she say that because he appears to be presents a sort of nice guy thing, but she said he was really controlling and trying to manipulate her all the time.
Well, he wanted a baby and she needed to come home so they could make a baby. And here she is in the prime of her career and she's touring and he's putting those head trips on her.
Yeah, no, I know, but this is the thing. The thing is the world we live in now, if you haven't figured it out yet, since 2015, 2016, that's one of the results of this whole thing on the downside for the, uber males, or maybe not uber, that's the wrong word, it's the sort of alpha male behavior, right?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And once the accusations were made, he lost all his contracts, Russell Brand. His business is taking a big dive.
Oh, from these things that happened in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been going on, if you think about it, ever since 2016. Roger Ailes was one of the first to crash and burn. And look what he had been doing. I mean,
for years,
getting away with it. And then Tucker Carlson continued this particular type of, it's known because that's the other thing. These guys do it and then they text about it.
And then that, even that guy, Matt, something on Good Morning America or some ABC show, Matt.
Oh, I know who you mean. Yeah.
And
Matt
he
Lauer.
was walking women into his office.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
had
yeah.
a lock he could press.
Yeah, right. Or the other guy, Charlie Rose.
Charlie Rose, I used to really like him.
He would apparently take off all his clothes and walk in and what are you?
He had that show right early in the morning, like Morning Joe, and he wore a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I don't know about a cowboy hat, but I know he used to do interviews. The point is that all these men, it's like they took everything for granted. but it's abusive. It's Harvey Weinstein behavior. It's like you just say, well, I'm just going to do what I want, and you figure out your own psychology. But it doesn't work like that anymore. Now you have to be careful. Yes, there will be some women that will abuse it. I know, but overall, no, it's correct. It's the way it should be. You shouldn't have to fear for your life and your safety. And
Listen, I just learned how to tap dance and move quickly and come off with a conversation like a sailor. Because when I worked, I mean, there was nothing for a doctor or someone to just grope me as I'm walking by. And then I'd yell pretty loud and a lot of F-bombs, and they wouldn't do it again.
yeah, they have to know that it's a hostile territory.
Yeah, I'd be down there talking about changing someone from a rooster to a hen in one fell swoop.
Yeah, right. But this is the thing. As the years are passing, men will probably realize, yeah, I can't say you're a doctor and you're in a hospital. You're probably thinking, well, if I do that, how do I know? What if she gets together with other women, forms a committee, and then
Yeah.
not the plan?
And women have to be careful too, because you can't tease, I always tease about a crush on Gerard Butler. It's all, because
Yeah.
I've always, my personality is the type to appreciate Menendez, but you can't probably the way we used to be back in the day, especially when I used to call it fresh meat rounds, when the new interns came on board in the summer at my county facility. And then the girls and I would be in labor and delivery, and we'd wrap up and we'd go down to the ER, and we'd have this little following, this little walk through, and I'd introduce all the new doctors, and all the girls were thrilled. And really, if you think about that, that was sexist.
Oh, it is, yeah. Anything where you're demeaning someone. I mean, even what we heard that Cassidy says that Trump said to her, well, why don't you put blonde highlights? I mean, it's just, it's just rude. It's a rude thing to do. It's sexist. It's not correct. Have decency.
Yeah, well, listen, that's how that rolled when I was back in the day. Now it's a horse of a different color.
Yeah, but I in my opinion, it's a good thing. She even said, by the way, she made this comment, which is true. She said, it's a bit, it's really direct. It's a little bit different than what I said about her. She's normally very cautious, but she said that men have been running the world for, hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands maybe. And she said, look how that's turning out.
I know.
It's true. It's true. It's time for more balance, because she brought up the thing about how more and more women are coming into government. But see, that's the interesting thing, is that a guy like Trump assists that. By someone like that coming on the scene in this era, he is guaranteeing that the next 10, 20, 30 years, you'll see more and more women in power, which is what society needs to balance it out. So there is a true balance of energies and balance of perspectives. Otherwise, these, crazy testosterone-driven men are running the show, and they're doing it all for ego and power and corruption, and what Putin does. Putin thinks that the world should be run by men like him. That's what the way
Exactly.
they think. Yeah,
exactly.
And by the way, that's what Hitler was onto. If you find this book, this thing Mein Kampf, I didn't read the book, it'd be too painful, but I saw the captions on the video I was watching, and he wanted to establish white supremacy, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And that was Trump's favorite book. I didn't even know he read it. But listen, one of the things I find interesting in her book, just food for thought. Well, apparently Mark Meadows is not a drinker. He did, I guess, drink something he thought was water, and it was some sort of laced with alcohol. And she thought it was funny because he got a little high. But, Trump doesn't touch alcohol, and neither did him, but McCarthy and everybody else within the organization were all drunks. She talks about being up till the wee hours, drinking like a fish, which I could have done at her age back in the day. But yeah, they hit the bottle.
Yeah, and apparently Giuliani is the worst for that.
He wasn't anywhere near them.
Well, I personally, I don't recommend it, just because you will promote your own decline much faster, and when you're younger, that does not help you to be on top of things and make good decisions.
And you don't realize that you're over there having a good time with everyone, and you don't realize you could do something stupid because you had alcohol in you.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, and the energy you have the next day and so forth, trying to overcome it. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
All right, my friend.
We really got carried away today.
I know, but it was fun.
All right.
I always
Well, the
like
next one.
checking in
So
with you.
we're all going to do our prayers and our wishes for your operation to be smooth and, everything.
I have you down as a contact, so somebody's going to be, I think Dan's going to contact you
Okay.
and tell you everything went smoothly. And then Danny and everybody and Kevin and people will be posting on their thing. She made it. Nothing to see here.
Excellent.
Send food. Send food.
All right.
All right. All right,
Talk
my
soon.
friend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.